What's going on, YouTube? The Humble Marksman here, bringing you my 1,000 round update on the CZ P-01 Omega. If you like handguns, competition, and overthinking things, either in that order or in any order, please consider subscribing. So we're going to be taking a break today from our usual diet of practical pistol competition shooting and dealing with an actual practical pistol, the CZ P-01 Omega. If you haven't watched my initial review of the Omega, go back and check that out for the full context. So let's wade into the details. This is not going to be a video of me taking a case of ammo in this gun to the range, popping it all off, and videoing myself looking cool and wearing gloves. But rather, I'm trying to keep this in the context of the people who are actually interested in buying the firearm. And in this case, that's going to be the civilian who's interested in picking something up for home defense or potentially concealed carry. So this gun, to make things more interesting, has never been cleaned. So I took it out of the box, I wiped off the excess packing grease, I shot it, I wiped off the excess packing grease, put it in the holster, and went home. And from there, I have not cleaned it, not even once. I've re-oiled it as it's occurred to me to do so. It's never really needed it, but it's probably been oiled about maybe 6 or 7 times in the past 6 months. It's either lived in an inside the waistband holster or in the safe at night. So it has gotten the complete lazy gun guy experience just to see if it would stand up to the actual rigors that the people who are actually buying the pistol would deal with. So we'll talk about how it's done. As far as the ammo that it's been fed, after initially testing that it would feed hollow points, it's lived on a steady diet of my reloads, and that's an SNS 125 taper cone projectile being pushed at about 1030 feet per second, which is basically equivalent to the American Eagle subsonic line of ammunition. So let's jump in. So what are my thoughts now versus my initial impressions? Well, from a trigger perspective, the pull weight in double action is about the same as it was, which is about 12 pounds. The trigger action has smoothed out and the stacking has reduced somewhat. However, there still is a good bit of stacking at the rear of the trigger pull. For those of you guys who are new and don't know what stacking means, that's when the trigger pull weight increases as the trigger moves backwards. It's not a desirable characteristic in a double action auto or really any gun. The single action is about the same as it's always been, which means that there is a little bit of slack from where the trigger sits with the hammer back, a little bit of creep, and then it snaps. It's not a super well defined, it's pretty light, right under 5 pounds. It's about where you'd want a duty service self-defense type trigger weight. So that's where that is. The reset, as we just demonstrated, is fairly short. So it is what it is. There's not really anything you can do about it. I do still very much appreciate the forward swept decockers of the Omega. It is in a better position for me. I can ride with my thumb on those, and I like that. However, I did manage to decock the pistol when I was shooting in an IDPA match with this gun. The decockers are ambidextrous, which is nice. The slide release is not really intended on the 75s to be reached with your strong hand thumb. That's going to be considered a bad thing by some folks. It's just, it kind of is what it is. Just get used to hitting it with your support hand thumb as you seat the mag. The forward and rear cocking serrations do their job admirably. You can do everything you need to do with the cocking serrations, so those are pretty good. That said, manipulating the slide is challenging. Most compact pistols come oversprung and have a very difficult slide to rack. This is no exception to that rule. I look forward to that spring further wearing out and me not changing it so that it's easier to manipulate. As far as the grips are concerned, the grips are actually pretty comfortable. They're made out of rubber. They give you a good feel in the hand. They're really well suited for the range. One thing that is kind of weird, and I noticed these only real out when I was getting on the gun for draws and IDPA matches, is this corner of the grip will bend back like that. That is kind of weird. I don't really care for that. It's not a big deal. It would snap back in place by the time my sights were presented to the target, but you could feel it happen on your hand, which was kind of weird. So I'll probably end up changing these grips out to some LOK lock grips, the Palm Swell frags. Just get those and they'll look a little bit cooler and they won't have that weird issue in the corner. But all in all, the grips are pretty good. You don't have to change them, they're just fine. The sights are okay, and I say okay because they're steel. The finish has started wearing off due to how my holster interfaces with it, but they're still just not bad. They are, see if I can get that lined up for you. The front sight's huge. I really don't like that. It will swallow up your target at 25 yards. It's not convenient. I don't like that. They have the photoluminescent paint in the dots, and the paint for the dots is still going strong, so that's a nice touch. I've had an M&P that let go of the dots in short order. Didn't really like that. But all the paint is still there, so it's going well. I will probably get Dawson precision sights for this pistol because I do want to be able to hit at 25 yards with a carry gun. So Dawson sights will probably be ordered very soon. Reaching the mag release is no big deal. The mag button is well shaped. It's in a good location. It doesn't stick out too much. It is reversible, and dropping mags is pretty easy. So that's that. The finish is held up pretty good. As I mentioned, this has not been cleaned ever, and you can see, and it's a pretty sunny day, but you can see basically right there on the rail from interfacing with the holster, that high corner right there started to wear down right there. The underside of the wear, it's all holster wear, it's no big deal. On the other side, it's a similar level of wear. It's just kind of right there at the muzzle, a little bit of nicks and stuff like that, but really it's not been a big deal. The CZ Polycoat finishes hold up very well. So the finish has been fine. As far as carrying the gun, it's a total breeze to carry. It carries like any compact, though it's slightly heavier than its polymer counterparts. I think it's right over about 30 ounces unloaded, which I think is a sweet spot. I think between about 30 and 35 ounces is a good sweet spot. You probably have noticed that all of the new generation service pistols are creeping up in their weights. They're all right around that 30 ounce mark, getting pretty close to it, whereas previously the mid-20s and below was considered ideal. It's a trade-off between portability and shootability. I find that the sights settle down easier with a heavier gun, and around 30 ounces kind of gives that benefit that's especially noticeable when taking precision shots at long range and shooting one-handed. So I will take the shootability at the sacrifice of a little bit of portability, and it sounds like the whole gun market is moving in that direction. The trigger reach is pretty good on this. I wear size large gloves, but you can see that there's plenty of finger I can get in the hook on double action. So it's not that bad. The grip is a little wide, which is nice because it does provide a nice shooting experience. It spreads out the recoil force into the palm of your hand. The way that they've molded this grip tang is done very well, coupled with how much they've relieved underneath the trigger guard. Lets you get really high on the pistol, so there's not a lot of muzzle flip when shooting this. It's pretty easy to keep the sights on target and keep the gun steady during the trigger pull. So I do really like shooting this gun. It is a cliche, but it's the absolute truth with this and really any of the compact CZs is they shoot like larger guns. They absolutely do. So the P-01 is no exception in that regard. As far as reliability is concerned, I haven't shot a bunch of self-defense rounds. The gun is clearly sprung for hotter ammo. It is a European gun, so it's been set up to run 9mm NATO, which is basically plus P by our reckoning. So when you shoot underpowered range loads, it can run into some issues. I only had one issue, and if I had filmed this range footage last week, I would have had 0 issues to report. But as I was filming this, to just kind of update with some fodder, I had a double feed. I didn't catch it on video, unfortunately, but there was one underpowered reload that had the case get caught in the ejection port, and then one round went in the chamber and another round came off the magazine, causing a pretty serious jam. I mean, it didn't take much other than stripping the magazine and running the action to get it going again, but it's one malfunction out of 1100, and it's entirely the ammo's fault. So the reliability has been fine for me. This is a good pistol. As mentioned in the other videos, the one thing I would talk about that I don't particularly like about this pistol is the fact that nobody makes a blue gun for this as I record this video. It's nearly October in the year 2017, and the Omega convertibles, and that basically means this shape on the decockers or safety, are not available in blue gun format, which means nobody makes holsters for these. You can modify a P-01 regular holster to make it work, and I've done that with the Klinger holster as well as a Mid-Atlantic holster, and they work fine. I use the Klinger the most every day. JM Custom Kydex can actually make holsters out of the box that will accept these decockers and work well. I really like my JM Custom Kydex holster, and I use it on the weekends. It's fantastic. I've heard from a couple other people that Contact Concealment, Alpha Concealment, and Vetter Holsters can make holsters for the P-01 Omega. I've not ordered one from them. I'm happy to try one out if anybody wants to send me one, but I've heard that they can make the holsters work for that as well. And so finally, I tested this pistol using the Daryl Bulkey Hardwire Tactical Shooters Advanced Super Test. You can go to his website and check that out. Just Google Hardwire Tactical Shooters and you can kind of find it. But what it is it's 3 strings of fire. It's 10 shots per string, and it's shot at 3 distances. The first distance is 5 yards with a par time of 5 seconds. And that's 10 shots from the holster in 5 yards in 10 seconds. At 10 yards, you've got 10 shots in 10 seconds. And 15 yards, you've got 10 shots in 15 seconds. You can do it from low ready or the holster. As I mentioned, I did it from the holster. I did all right. It's shot at an NRA B8 bullseye target, and the way that you score it is you add up the points that you shot. A perfect score on this test is 300. So I shot this test cold this week, and I was able to shoot a 286. I ended up dropping 1 point at 5 yards, 4 points at 10 yards, and 9 points at 15 yards. At 15 yards, that huge front sight that we talked about is a huge disadvantage. It basically eats the whole, or at least half the target. So what did I end up doing is I ended up putting the X-ring just kind of as a lollipop on my front sight. And so you can see in my grouping that my group was consistent, it just was consistently low, so I ended up dropping a bunch of points. I need those Dawsons if I really want to wear out the X-ring at medium distance with the pistol. So I didn't use all my time in the first 2 strings, and that kind of hurt me up, or especially the last string. I didn't use all my time. I think I shot it out in just under 11 seconds. I really could have spent more time with the trigger and stacked up some more points there, so I know how to improve on the test in the future. But all in all, 286 is considered good. Anything above 270 is considered competent, and anything above 290 is considered very good. So shooting 286 with this pistol from my inside the waistband concealment rig is fine with me. It's a level of competency I'm totally comfortable with this pistol. It's a great test for checking out your compatibility with gear and giving you kind of some data to compare one pistol to another, one holster to another, whatever you just it lets you evaluate the system. So it's a good test. Check it out. As a point of reference, I also ran the test about a month ago for the first time ever with my AccuShadow match gun from my USPSA production rig, and I shot about a 285, I think it was. So it's basically the same score with a carry gun out of that rig, so that's good. All in all, it's a really sound little gun, and I really like it. It shoots well. It shoots great, actually, and it carries really well. I'd certainly recommend it. It's fine. I look forward to carrying it in the future. And if you've made it this far, please go ahead and hit that like button. And when I say hit it, I mean like smash it. Lots and lots of authority there. And appreciate that. It helps me out in the search results. But as always, we'll catch you guys on the next one. And we'll take it from there, guys. You have a good one.